And we back. Welcome back to another episode of the Get Buggers podcast, powered by Hardwitting Basketball. I'm your host, Musa Moretti. Today, I'm gonna just be covering the SCBCA showcase event that went on up in Rock Hill this past weekend. I will only be talking about the games that went on Saturday. Obviously, there were games on every court, being 9 courts if you count the arena court. So obviously, I wasn't able to catch all the games, but this is just my thoughts and opinions in basically the fastest way possible on all the games I was able to see. 9 a.m., I wasn't able to watch any games since I was playing, but let's start off with 10 a.m. The first game I want to mention is Ridgeview versus Catawba Ridge because this game, I was only really able to watch the back end of it, but was a very close one down the stretch. But Ridgeview being up by about 8 points with a minute and a half to go, but Catawba Ridge came all the way back. I'm not going to lie. Quamarion Webb surprised me. I didn't actually know who this was before I got to see him on Saturday, but definitely a good player in the class of 26, along with Lance Barnes, who hit the game-winning shot for them. Zay Hager can really shoot the ball, and this was my first time watching both of these teams live, and especially the Catawba Ridge team. So, I mean, I knew Catawba Ridge was good last year, but they're gonna be really good even this year. Another game I caught at 10 a.m. was Greer versus West Florence, and it was basically Greer dominating. And Greer's got a deep little team this year. I'm not gonna lie, they got guys all through the roster that can go, and I like their team right now. They got some transfers, obviously being Zane Valentine, Zane's younger brother Landon, along with Isaiah Henry from Jail Man. So they got some guys, but they do have the same core as last year. Like I've talked about, Braden and Braden being Braden Durham, Braden Lights, Amari Anderson, obviously, and they definitely Trey as well. So they should be doing very well next year. The last team I saw at 10 a.m. was Landrum versus Andrew Jackson, and Andrew Jackson's always been good historically. I mean, they always have guys that can really go, but they almost gave this game away near the end. I mean, they were up the whole game, and they did end up winning, but Landrum did make a little push near the end, and it was a low-scoring game, but Andrew Jackson did come out with the win. Burns versus Keenan was the first game I was able to see at 11 a.m. And this was also a good game. I mean, Burns, some guys I really want to shout out is Brian Sumter from Keenan, number 0. He's gonna be a problem, I feel like, this year. 6'8", going into his junior year, along with guys like Amari King from Keenan, who can really play. But these guys, they're kind of young, but I think they'll be just as good as last year, and can really compete for a ring again. Some guys on Burns. I'm not exactly sure who won this game, but I believe Burns. They were winning when I left, and got to shout out KJ Stevens. He was playing very well for Burns, and I think he can be a real surprise for 5A this year and a real big help to Burns. Of course, they also have guys like Evan on the team and Kazan McDowell. So they have guys that can really hoop, and I expect a good season out of them this coming year. Then, played again at 12 p.m., so I wasn't able to watch those games. But 1 p.m., Gray Collegiate versus Greenville. This was another game that was actually came down kind of near the wire near the end. They were down by a good amount at the beginning, but they ended up making a push and keeping it competitive. But Gray was able to get the win. Next thing I want to mention is Riverside versus Goose Creek. Goose Creek, I would honestly say, gave this game. I mean, they were winning for, I feel like, most of the game, but Riverside was able to push all the way back and get the dub. And obviously, Riverside has basically all their guys coming back, being like Julian, Mikey, Rylan, Drew, all their guys coming back. But I do want to shout out Goose Creek because although they did lose a lot of seniors last year, they do still have Quell Brown and Shane Potts, who are basically the future of this team. Shane going into his junior year, Quell going into his sophomore year, but both of these guys can really go. Next game I was barely able to watch was Nation Forward versus AC Flora, just because they're two of the bigger teams in South Carolina. Didn't really watch much. Saw JJ Rembert hit a midi. He's always going to do his thing, though. And then Ren versus White Knoll. I believe this is the game that Baba Franklin, or the newcomer for Ren, had, I believe, 40 or more points. And, I'm not I this is what I've heard, and I mean, if he's putting up numbers like that along with the guys that they have over at Ren, this is definitely going to be a hard team to stop. Then moving on to 2 p.m., we had Irmo versus Eastside. I can't exactly remember who won this game, but Eastside was looking pretty solid, and especially their young guys. Obviously, they have Justin Ray, Hunter Wall, Matt Roberts. Joey came back off of his injury this year, and he was actually looking real solid for them. But the young guys, they have Brandon Ray, along with I would even shout out Thomas Rouse because he was also put in the fire with them, and he didn't look too bad either. He didn't look like he was too small out there. So I mean, they have a good group coming even after the 2024 class for them. And then Irmo completely honestly, they look completely different from the championship team last year. At least to me, this was my first time getting to watch them, but they look way different. But I think they have a good future ahead of them as well. The next game I want to mention is Lancaster versus T. Hanna, also at 2 p.m. Man, Lancaster, I didn't really get to watch this game at all, but when I looked at that scoreboard, Lancaster was putting in the work. I'm going to be real. They really were putting in the work against T. Hanna, but that's no shade to T. Hanna because I'm going to talk about the game later on that I saw of them. But Lancaster looking like a strong team coming back. They have a lot of guys, Columbus Parker, Tinsley, obviously, what's his name? Waltford coming back. So they have all their guys. They have a good group coming back. And if I did forget to mention anybody, I mean Lancaster, they're also a deep team. Next game I got to watch Spring Valley versus Somerville. Spring Valley have some dogs along with Somerville. I mean these teams both there. I didn't really get to watch the end, but both of these teams compete. I think both are either 5A. I know Somerville's 5A, but Spring Valley, another big school. This was my first time getting to watch either of these teams. Obviously, Somerville has Yannick Smith and Melvin Teal. Yannick, obviously, the guy that he's the one that won South Carolina Player of the Year last year, so he can really go along with Melvin, who's also a really good rising junior for them. And I don't remember his name, but number 3 off Spring Valley, he seems like he can really go for that team. So I'm looking to see big things from him as well. 3 p.m. I was able to hear. I wasn't at the game. Lexington versus Greenville, obviously a crazy game. I heard Cam Scott did his thing at the end. I mean, hitting a game tire near the end. I'm not gonna say anything. I know Bryson Drummond. He's always gonna do a little talking, which I guess this time talking to the Gatorade Player of the Year last year ended in a game tying shot. They didn't do overtime, so this game ended, I think, like 49-49, but definitely a great game. Wish I could have seen it. Moving on to 4 p.m., Blythewood versus Somerville. Somerville actually ended up losing this game in a close nail biter, actually, it was about a 10-point game, but yeah, it was a little extra at the end. I know Somerville, they did a little extra stuff after the game ended, which probably didn't need to happen, but Blythewood played a great game, I feel like, and I didn't get to watch too much of it, but beating Somerville is a tough thing to do, and Blythewood was able to do it. Irmo versus T.O. Hanna. This is a game, I believe T.O. Hanna pulled this one out. Another very low-scoring game, but Jaquarius Patterson, that man can really go, and I think he's going to have a really great season. I know he was an all-state player this past year, but I think he can do even bigger things for them this year, along with the other guys that they have on their team. Next game I want to shout out is Lancaster versus Eastside that I got to see. Man, Lancaster was really going at Justin Ray. I'm not going to lie. I mean, they were pushing this man. And, I mean, they have dogs. Obviously, one of the guys I forgot to mention was Cloud on their team, who I believe actually just got an offer from Salkatachi or however Salgahatchee or how I think that's how you pronounce it. But he can really go, really going hard against Justin Ray. I mean, Justin Ray and his guys, they competed, but I believe Lancaster was able to pull this one off. Powdersville versus Dreher. I believe Powdersville should have won this game, but some missed opportunities near the end. I want to shout out number 24 on Dreher. He was very clutch down the stretch. I'm sorry, I wasn't able to find his name, but he made some big plays down the stretch, whether it be a jump shot or free throws near the end. Lugoff Elgin versus Fountain Inn. I wanted to just watch Fountain Inn because obviously they were a young team last year and they're moving all into their junior year this year. I believe I know Lugoff Elgin ended up winning this game by about 10 to 15 points. And I want to shout out Braylon Mumford from Lugoff Elgin because although he's only about to be a junior, I believe he's going to be a very good leader for the guys on that team and can also, even though he's like 5'8", he can go. He can go. And with the loss of well, actually, I'm going to mention that later. 5 p.m., we have Westwood versus Hillcrest, and I think Westwood ended up winning this game. Hillcrest looks like a completely different team, losing guys like Izzy Hall, Chavis, Jeremiah. Obviously, they lost a lot of guys, but they still have Caden, and Caden, that man can hoop, but Westwood was a little bit too strong for them this time. South Point versus J.L. Man. I want to shout out Ja Hall, who has some crazy bounce from South Point, number 12, and Trey Raymond, who is class of 26, I believe, one of the taller freshmen in the class, and can also really go for South Point, where it was able to pull out this game over J.L. Man. And J.L. Man also, I mean, they look completely different with either guys graduating or transferring. I mean, Jeremy Cook is the leader of them, but they're definitely going to have a lot of work ahead of them. Now moving into 6 p.m., Oceanside versus River Bluff. Oceanside is still like that. I know they lost the state championship in 2A last year and lost a few seniors, but they still have guys. I mean, Travis Stickney will be their leader for them this year, and he can go. I already know this. And they were able to basically kill River Bluff, if I'm being honest. Next game I was able to watch a little bit of was Wando versus Northwestern. This was a very messy and low-scoring game. I honestly feel like the score didn't change for like 7 minutes at one point. I do know Kai Murdoch is basically the head guy of that Wando team, but they have some guys that can go, and Wando was able to pull out this win. Next game I want to talk about is Fox Creek versus Christ Church. I actually did watch this game probably the most at 6 p.m. Man, Christ Church is still good. I don't care if Jordan left. I mean, they can go. I mean, all their guys. I want to shout out DJ Harvey, obviously, is the lead guard who's been there since 7th grade. Jack Fagan shot the ball well. Reed Hip is going to be a solid big man for them. I don't care if he's only going into his sophomore year. And then Fox Creek, man, they just need to run the ball through Connor Cannon more. Obviously, their all-state guy from last year. I think if they give him more touches, they'll be in a better position. Moving on to 7 p.m., the last hour I was able to stay here. Indian Land versus Lawrence. Indian Land is going to be a tough team in 4A this year with guys like Mike Jones, who is looking to run it back as a sophomore, and Sincere Rasul, who is about to be a senior for them. And I also want to shout out rising freshman Sequel Patterson, who has crazy balance. I'm not going to lie. And is just looking like a real dog out there, if I'm being honest. And Lawrence, man, they need a little bit of work. I mean, hopefully they can rally behind one guy that I saw, and I played against Tyus Jones, who is a really good energy guy, and I feel like can be an energy leader for them going into his senior year as one of the older guys for this team. Also is really athletic and strong. Then the last game I was able to see of was Jailman versus Marlboro County. Marlboro County only being a 3A school, Jailman was able to take advantage of their mistakes and pulled away near the end. Jeremy having another good game for them, and some guys like Thomas stepping up, Jelani Berry, all near the end of the game. And I mean, although their team looks completely different, I think that they'll still be able to compete in 5A. Some transfers I want to mention: Damon Howie going to Camden from Lugolf Elgin, which I was going to mention earlier. This is going to shake things up down in the Columbia area. Then Brady Poole going back to Chesney from Broome. Kamari Spurgeon going to Woodmont from Hillcrest. Keyshawn McCoy going from Jailman to Woodmont. And Franklin Whiteley going from Jailman to Greenville. These are just some of the names. I tried to do this as fast as possible. This is your SCBCA showcase event from Rock Hill Review, and I'll see you on the next episode. Peace.